Hi, this is Suzette the Marriage Warrior, and today we're going to talk about the easiest ways to hurt your marriage. The number one way to hurt your marriage is to deceive inside of your marriage. If you are living any kind of deception where your partner is out of the loop inside of your marriage, you're going to hurt it because you are no longer independent. You are interdependent inside of a union. And so you have to understand that when this person is doing this person needs to know about it, so that because they're flowing together, and the marriage is supposed to orbit around each other rather than one person doing what they want to do and the other person orbiting around that one person. So deception is usually the reason. Now, it's not blatant deception necessarily. It doesn't have to be cheating on someone or whatever, but it will cause trust issues even if they're not telling you benign things. If they're just kind of saying, I'll be home at 6 and they're not home till 7:30, that's going to build trust issues inside of the marriage. And so people don't think that they're being deceptive, like their intention is not to deceive you, but that doesn't mean you're not going to build trust issues. So trying to communicate what you're doing at all times so that the other person, it's like the right hand knows what the left hand is doing, can then do their life. So the communication about that is really important. And then if you are deceiving your partner, hiding money, not telling the truth about where you are, being friends with people you shouldn't be friends with, clicking on Facebook of opposite sex people and having a conversation, those kind of things, even though they seem real benign, will cause trust issues because they're deceptive in a nature. The nature of deception is about not telling. And so whenever you are in a union, you have to let each other know. Now, if you are feeling like you need to go talk to someone on Facebook that's the opposite sex, you need to pay attention to what's going on inside of the union because you may not be getting needs filled. And so this is the second thing that I want to talk about, which will hurt your marriage and destroy the union. Not outside of deception, is living your own life. When you live your own life and you don't consider the other person, that is disrespectful inside of a union. You have to consider them. The other thing with respect is these are humans. So we get into these cycles that are so toxic and we're not even respecting the other one or what the other one needs or what the other one is saying. So when you lose respect, you're going to ruin your marriage as well. And then the last one we're going to talk about today is your coping mechanisms. All of us have coping mechanisms that come from our development in how we kind of grew up and thought things were right. We grew up being aggressive and never really got called out on it. Or we grew up stonewalling someone and hanging up on someone. We grew up being able to avoid situations and repress our emotions. These are ways we grew up because in our family dynamic, we learned that either through birth order or the kind of people pleasing we needed to do inside of the family of origin. And so you continue to do it. Those are called coping mechanisms. And so if you are operating in a coping mechanism during your marriage, it's going to create a cycle that is toxic between the two of y'all because you and your partner are both operating in a coping mechanism. So you have to be able to determine what those coping mechanisms are in yourself and then have a partnership that is safe enough to be able to discuss these issues of what their coping mechanisms are and what yours are, and then trying to figure out what issue triggered those coping mechanisms for you to then operate. So those are the main three things, and they all surround communicating. So it's not about communication being the number one problem of marriages as what we're not talking about. It's about the things we are talking about. It's like we're talking about surface things. We're talking about what's for dinner and all that stuff instead of these things that I'm talking about, like where are you headed today? What's your schedule? And not being resentful to someone who's trying to figure out how they're going to orbit their life as you're orbiting yours, and then not being deceptive and trying to hurt the other person because you have other issues that are going on inside of you that are not being fulfilled inside of the relationship. So you have to be able to communicate those things so that you can figure out if y'all can solve them within the relationship. So there's very hidden agendas in ruining your relationship, even though you don't know you are. So be careful and start paying attention. If you like this content, subscribe below.